Welcome and thank you for clicking on my video. Even though I don't have a face cam, there is some big news going on today with NVIDIA earnings, and we called in this video right here on Patreon, linked down in the description, because this video here, we said Apple was the big opportunity, and we said NVIDIA, yeah, we think that it was going to have good earnings and go up from there. The coin that we flipped even live told us so, but we said that we were leaning towards it fading. So let's go look at what happened today and see if Apple and NVIDIA were doing what we said happened, and if those setups were actually proven to be good ones for some downside after that pop for NVIDIA. Let's check it out as we do some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVIDIA, AMD, and Meta going forward today. Let's get into it. Now, we posted multiple times saying that we are coming back with a vengeance. We are coming back and we are going to be pretty straightforward. While we're live, we're going to be straightforward, and definitely over on Patreon. To my Patreon members, thank you so much for being a Patreon member, but hopefully you guys found this information helpful. What did we see? Well, NVIDIA, we said this was probably going to have a good earnings. It's going to gap up and then fade because we were paying attention to the put levels being expensive, and those algorithms are rigged against you. That is very clear to put out here. Good earnings, there it is, and here we go. We're fading below that weekly expected move that we actually gave you live this morning. So we will be live tomorrow morning if you want to join us. But let's see if our other call, multiple times in that video, we were pointing out some opportunities, but Apple was overall the best one. And look at that. Apple's showing a big red bar for the day. Very, very good trade setup. And I'm glad that we were able to give that information during market hours. We gave that information. So if you're thinking about joining the Patreon, that would be a good reason right there. And now we're going to go over into the SPY and the Qs. Quick note before we get into our full breakdown of every stock that we cover on this channel, right? We're going to be talking about the course just for a brief moment, because the course, I'm going to put that out for $100. I called today during that live video. I said, it looks like volatility is about to go insane, and that means that you are going to need those skills. So a lot of people emailing me for some kind of discount on the course, and there you go. Here you go. $100 gets you that course. And if you have already taken the course before, maybe you paid a little extra, that's okay, because I am going to be adding some more content to that course, important additional content. The first video being, hey, when I take a trade, what should I pay attention to know I'm not going to get screwed out of that trade? When do I get out of that trade? And that's what we're going to add after this weekend. So that course link is down in the description, and I highly encourage you get that, because this is going to be very, very volatile, and you're going to need some skills in order to trade in this market. You can't just buy calls and magically everything goes up anymore. Let's get into some technical analysis. Looking at the SPY on the daily, that is a big fade, and we were talking about how the algorithms are rigged against you, and once everyone on the retail side gives up, we had people come into the channel and say, I am frustrated, screw it, I'm just buying calls. That is exactly what the algorithms want to cause. They want to cause you to be frustrated to the point where you're saying, no, this thing cannot go down anymore, and right when those puts are cheap, that's when the algorithm flips on you. And you're going to hear me talk about algorithms a lot, because we actually had a Citadel. We had Citadel come out and tell us that they actually hired rocket scientists to create their algorithms for their market making. So the market maker is technically just an algorithm now, and it will plan out exact right times in order to screw over retail traders. And I used to think, hey, 90% of traders lose money in the market. I actually used to believe that was mostly due to maybe a lack of knowledge, maybe a little bit of stupidity, maybe just some YOLOing. Now I think most of that is because this market is rigged, and we're going to talk about this market. We can still make money in this market. We just have to keep that in mind and play their game. So why is this down day very, very important? And we mentioned something live. If I go up here and I type XLU, we have been talking about this for a very long time. We've been talking about this ever since this big run up. I believe we started talking about this in the beginning of May, and we said if XLU runs up, well, if you go back, I showed you guys this in a previous video. Go back a couple of weeks and look for a Saturday video, because we talked about how XLU is one of the first crash signals. Okay, usually XLU is actually very close to when the SPY is going to make that move. So you notice today, what did we get? We got that crash signal. So the only thing we need to keep in mind here on the macro scale is, though we are getting this red impression, a lot of the time we do like to see some kind of double top. The last 3 times this signal has proven, this was a sign for a pullback. This was a sign for an overall stock market crash. So we're going to be paying attention to this on the daily scale, and now we're going to get into those shorter time frames on the SPY. This is what we were mentioning live a lot during a couple live videos ago. We were talking about this being a triple top. And the reason we were talking about a triple top around this area and not seeing a big push higher, and if any push higher, most likely NVIDIA earnings would cause a fade, is because we were paying attention to what the algorithms were paying attention to, what the insiders' sentiment was. And the insiders' sentiment is a bunch of red bars down for NVIDIA. So they are not getting into this overall move. They're actually selling. And I believe retail traders are going to be holding the bag when it comes to NVIDIA and maybe even the stock market. So can we head higher from here? Yes, but you notice this, the 30-minute is now in a negative trend. So therefore, we have to talk a little bit negatively about it. We're losing some key levels, and we saw that trap set. Now we start to break down to lower levels. So what can we pay attention to for tomorrow? 529.47 to the upside. Yes, we are back with those daily expected moves, and we have 522.45 to the downside. So we can pay attention to both of these levels. If we get a big reaction up early on in the day, that could very well fade. We're in negative territory, so you have to take any kind of bounce here, even some green bars. If that fades at any time, this can continue, okay? This can continue. The selling can continue, and XLU is telling you that that direction has been chosen. We're most likely going to see a little bit bigger pullback. So if we look at the SPY here, overall, what we were talking about played out, but there was one trap left. And we talked about that with NVIDIA earnings. We mentioned that live yesterday, how if NVIDIA earnings is good, I highly expect it to fade because the algorithms will say, now everyone's buying calls, puts are very cheap, let's rug pull them. And that's exactly what happened going on into today. Now, why would we want to drop down? Well, you see this yellow line. It's kind of on top of the red line here. If you notice, that is the monthly expected move, 522.69, and 68% of the time we do land within that move. And it looks like we have a good shot at the end of this month to land back in that zone. So very, very cool to see that. You see the weakness come in. Even if you were on your toes and trading like water like we do on this channel, maybe you take a short here and then this bounces back up. You say, okay, just in case, I'm going to get out of this. And then boom, you are right back in and you're back to making money. That is how we have to move in this market. Trading like water will really help you out in this market because you don't want those algorithms to go against you. And I highly encourage you to pay attention to how cheap puts and calls are, because that's the most likely direction that those algorithms are going to go. Now the Qs, little different story, but something very cool that happened today with the Qs was we pretty much tested the weekly expected move. Remember, we gravitate to those levels, and look at that selling comes in, the fading comes in right then. I bet a lot of people are frustrated saying, oh, I took calls because NVIDIA earnings was good, and then everything was ripped away from you. That's exactly what the market makers algorithm wants you to feel. They want that emotion to come up. So what are we paying attention to now? Still, the 30-minute is close to the center line. If we do curl up, yeah, we can go get some positivity, but I'd be paying attention to what those puts and calls, what the pricing of those is, and which way that is really leaning throughout the day, because the algorithm could flip that on its head. So we can still pay attention to these weekly expected moves, but let's go a little deeper, right? Let's go to the daily side, 457.30 to the upside, and we have 450.02 to the downside. And this is something that the course will really teach you about and how to use it for trading. So I highly encourage you. This market is going to get very volatile. Things look like they are scaling up, and that's why we are doing a sale. $100 to become a better trader. Think about the market differently and understand these indicators much better than any other course can tell you. I will say that. Now, if we are going to make a move up, remember, these daily ranges, we can go outside of them, but that's only 32% of the time. So if we make a rapid move up, that could very well fade again by the end of the day. If we're going to make that rapid move down, we could see that bounce by the end of the day, because you land in here 68% of the time, and we gravitate to these levels. So just pay attention to these levels tomorrow. These are going to be very important, but I just want you to notice that we have the big dog, the monthly down here, 447.85. We could end back down in there by the end of May, and that is something to pay attention to, because XLU is saying that we are going to see a bigger pullback, if not some kind of market crash. Now, Apple, we were talking about this signal live, and overall, where was your entry point? It was actually right here. So you should have been like, hey, there is some weakness here, 192.50. And what did we do live? We went and looked around this bar right here. We went and looked what was cheaper, what was the more likely scenario here that the algorithms were going to hop on, and it looked like calls were getting a little expensive while puts were cheap, and therefore the algorithm rug pulls you, okay? So if you pay attention to the put and call levels, that's most likely another video we are going to put out on the course. And if you want the daily expected moves for tomorrow, because it looks like we could get some kind of bounce from here, we're oversold, we could get some kind of dead cat or some kind of reversal, but you want some levels to pay attention to. Those daily expected moves for Apple are over on Patreon right now. We can give those to you every single Friday, and as we're about to go into a Friday, we have to pay attention to it. So tomorrow, good. It's just a great night to join for the Patreon, just because, hey, you can get those daily expected moves, and maybe we see a bounce like this, we see the 30-minute curl up, and you know that's exactly where the market expects it to go, and so we land in that zone 68% of the time, and maybe we do see that fade. So Apple seeing a big downturn here. This was a great trade. Someone was asking, why do I take longer out expiration? And that's because then I have time in case the market maker algorithms are trying to mess with me a little bit. Okay, I can scale into positions, I can do, and then I can tell you right now, this big of a move, even with a month out position from here down to here, 2.5%, is about 150%. Your value of that option will be worth 150% more than what you put into it. Very good trade very quickly. This might be even worth 200% because it happened so quickly. Did it roll over the 2 hour? 2 hour was already rolled over and about to go negative. So now we just need this daily to cross and you can hold on to that. But I would highly encourage, this is something that I would do at this point. I would say we're still in this zone. We could get some kind of bounce. I would take profit. So then I'm just playing with house money. I think that's the diligent thing to do for Apple. But if this wants to turn around and then we want to see XLU make that, double top for that crash signal, well, then where would Apple go to? It would head down to this zone. This zone down here, remember, we never retested it. When we break out of a zone, we like to retest to really head higher, and we never did that. So a retest of this zone would be very likely, and then maybe we see something like this form, and we get some kind of daily divergence that we can pay attention to. We're going to be notifying you a lot about this, and we are putting up those weekly video updates every single week now. I am moved. I am ready to go. I'm still getting things set up, but I am down to give you guys what I actually think about this market. It is time for us to win. Tesla's starting to break down. You can see the daily breaking through that resistance by the end of the day, and that's not a good sign, because if this curls over on this MACD, you're really close to going from a positive trend to a negative one. And if you want to see what a negative trend looks like, look at this. Oh my gosh, some big swings, and the direction is down, okay? So that is what can continue here. Maybe we get some kind of retest, then we get a bounce, and then that continues to the downside because we're paying attention to XLU. But if we go down into a 2 hour, this has crossed and is going negative at this point. That could have been some kind of flagging out at this area or something like that. But that's not necessarily what I care about. I just care about, hey, the indicator turned down. Now I can say this. This is still technically in a positive trend, just barely. But if I wanted to take a chance here, I could take a chance on this bar here. I could be a little bit contrarian to the direction right now in a positive trend. So that would be a contrarian indication there. So I can be a contrarian. And then if this goes negative, then I can say, okay, now the trend is down and this is bearish. As of right now, this is bearish. Now, for it to become a bear trend, an actual negative trend, we have to go a little bit lower for Tesla. It looks like that direction will be down. Going into the shorter time frames, what can we see? We're about to hit oversold readings here. So I do think there is potential for some kind of bounce early on in the day, and that's why you want to have those daily expected moves. It can help you find an area where the next downturn can happen for Tesla. Now, Amazon's a little different story. Right now, you do have 30-minute divergence. What does that like to do? It likes to turn up the 2 hour. So let's go look at the 2 hour. Now, this is the type of stuff you will learn in the course. So let's go look at a 2 hour real quick. The 2 hour, what's happening down here? It has a little divergence as well. So if Amazon's going to see a bounce from here, it actually could switch into a negative trend. But I just wanted you to see how it's still a little bit far away from that center line. So you're going to need some positivity. You're most likely going to have to break through this level of 184.70. That looks like some pretty good resistance there. If you break above that, you can turn up from this area. So not everything has to be bearish at the same time. This is technically bearish right now, but a contrarian would look at this signal and say, hey, it looks like the momentum's dying out, crosses on the MACD. Okay, but I have to be weary. I have to pay attention to how I could get screwed before I'm able to get into positive territory. That's when you know, hey, now the positive trend has begun and the direction for Amazon is up from here. But you have to be careful until that actually happens. And that's why we're going to update that course over the weekend. One last thing about Amazon was we were mentioning this thing looked pretty bad from the momentum side on the daily chart. It doesn't mean it has to crash down into oblivion or anything like that. It just says, hey, there is weakness up here. You potentially have sort of a wonky double top, but overall I just have triple divergence across the board. And this recent divergence was very steep. So you're seeing a pretty good pullback here going all the way from the high of about 191 all the way down to 180. Very, very good trade setup. We had little divergences in here. Congratulations to anyone who took that, but we can pay attention to the fact that it has some momentum dying here and maybe we get some kind of bounce. Daily range is going to be very important for tomorrow for Amazon, but this is screaming weakness. If this goes negative, then I suspect we are going to test this area down here towards 175, and if we break through that, we might be right back down towards our important level, 166.12. Now it's time for the big dog, NVIDIA. Everyone pile in, sell every stock and only buy NVIDIA because it's so profitable. It is a god. Everything's good. Well, then why are the insiders selling it? We showed that live today, how the insiders' sentiment on this was very, very red. Very, very red for the last like 2 weeks. And therefore you would say, oh, are they wrong? Not necessarily, because this might just be a trap to get retail to be holding the bag as you see a big divergence up in this area. And if that divergence does confirm, then you could say, hey, that's got a good shot of going negative, okay? So if we start to break back below 958.05, if we retest that, that would be a good thing. But if we break through that and this starts to cross over and go negative, then you're going to test this level way down here towards 758 and maybe even go make a new low. So a lot of people very, very bullish on NVIDIA, and it makes sense. Those are some very good earnings, but the algorithms are here to make you lose some money. So what would I pay attention to if I'm going to see continued bullishness, though? If I'm going to see continued bullishness, well, first of all, I don't know if that bullishness comes in because we're right there at that weekly expected move. Look where we close on the day, dead on it, okay? Dead on it. And what are we noticing? This is when we were like, all right, you're outside of it, so we can start to crash down a little bit. And that monthly expected move is right below you. So I suspect we are going to see some kind of test of 958.05. But all I have to pay attention to, look at that MACD get close to the center line, curl up again. Treat it like a swing trade, all right? Treat it like a swing trade. This curls up on the MACD, positive territory. What happens? You test the high, or you go make a new one. So we're going to be paying close attention to NVIDIA. We will be live tomorrow morning watching if NVIDIA sees any kind of fading or anything like that. And we even might look at AMC and GME later on in this video. Now, what is the funny thing? NVIDIA is pretty expensive, right? So I'm assuming a lot of retail traders thought AMD would make a similar move. And so a bunch of calls started to come in and we saw the PCC levels still remaining around 0.8. So still a little bit high, not the highest, but what does the algorithm put in here? It says, hey, puts are pretty cheap on AMD. Boom, go to the downside. So rug pull is in play here. Now you're in negative territory, so any bounce can lead to selling. And notice this, we lost that important level of 160.83. So this could be all the retest you get, and then that is ripped away. So we're going to see this continue. Yeah, we could get some kind of bounce, but make sure you watch if that gets down or up towards that center line, curls back down. Well, then that might be the next move down. Take a little play here because we might see that continue testing this low. We're going to make a new one for AMD. I just wanted to point out on the daily scale here why this could be very, very bad for AMD is because this one is still in negative territory on the daily. If it turns around right here, if it crosses on this MACD, it is in negative territory. That means we could test this low down at 141 or go make a new one. And I would say something around 133.50 is where I would pay attention if this MACD is able to cross over. So pay attention. Just notice that a lot of people, maybe this is even just, maybe this isn't the algorithms. Maybe this is people selling to go hold the bag for NVIDIA. I would highly encourage you to watch out because NVIDIA hitting above 1,000 is a very scary place to try to go long. Now, Meta, very similar story to AMD, actually, still in negative territory, actually looks even worse. So I'm still suspecting we could see another upward push, but I would like a retest of 453.08. I think a retest of 453.08 would be a good level for it to retest, but that would include us rolling over on this MACD, and we're in negative territory. So if we start to lose that level, hey, we could test this level right here of 427.30. I think that one's more important than this one, and then we could actually head a little bit lower than that as well if the MACD wants to cross over. So Meta not looking the best at this point. We can't talk all bearish. We have to be open to multiple scenarios. That is what is included in trading like water, and that's exactly what we do on this channel. Well, first of all, on the 2 hour, let's just go over the last bearish thing. Uh-oh, head and shoulders. That's not good, but just pay attention if that's able to break. That would curl over the daily MACD, and we might see some big downside here. But if we're not going to see that downside, if this is some kind of fake out, well, you're going to see this 2-hour roll up into positive territory. You see that cross up, you're right by positive territory. That means we can go into a positive trend on the 2-hour. We can come test this high, then we can test this high, then we can maybe go make a new one, okay? So this would be a signal that the positive trend is going to continue. I'm not convinced that that is going to happen if XLU keeps selling off. Alrighty, let's talk about AMC for a brief moment. You guys know I'm holding this bad boy. I'm holding it until I see something crazy happen. I don't care. The momentum signal still right near the center line right now. It is creeping into negative territory, so that would tell you, hey, the direction could be down for now. But what if we go test that important level? We gave you that important level way back here. We said 437 looks like a great support level. What do? We gravitate towards 437 over time, see a bounce, then we get a little bit of a higher low. So if this is able to turn around quickly, that would be good because you would remain in positive territory. But as of right now, it looks like we might break down and test that level again, which would maybe give you some kind of double bottom. So we will be paying attention to this live tomorrow. I like to keep it up on my other screen because this is something that can crash the market. AMC and GME, they can crash the market because if the short sellers get caught and they have to pay back all of their borrowing fees, all of the fake shares they have to buy them and scramble to buy them so they don't get caught in any illegal activity. Well, that would be interesting because what would they have to do? They'd have to go liquid in some way. They would have to find some cash. Where's the liquidity? It's in NVIDIA. It's in big stocks, okay? So that would mean the SPY and the Qs are going to see some kind of sell-off, especially if AMC starts to just rip. If AMC and GME start to just rip from here, well, that's going to be a very bad sign that the market sells off at the same time, because that means that these big players in the stock market game are having to liquidate some of their assets, being stocks, in order to pay back some of their illegal activity. And yes, naked short selling is illegal. I want to point that out. Just because the government does not actually charge them for anything ever rigged, just because they don't charge them for it, it is illegal. It's been illegal since 2008. Okay, so what are we paying attention to here on GME? Potential for a little 30-minute divergence here, which likes to curl up the 2-hour MACD. So let's see this 2-hour, decently close to positive territory, right? Decently close to the center line, but still you would have to say, if I see a green bar like this, right? I see a green bar on the histogram, I am still being a contrarian until that goes positive. I think tomorrow we have some big things happening, and we're going to watch this because the 24th is very important for these short sellers. So this thing could get crazy tomorrow. You might be saying to yourself, oh, it's perfectly fine, Luke. Nothing to worry about. Stop with the I don't know. This here is actually what you really need to see, okay? The fact that the dollar is still at much higher levels tells you that the insiders have not fully bought back into this move. And if anything, they're selling more right now. And we pointed that out live. If this turns up, this would be a very bad sign, especially if you start to get above 106.493 Dixie here. So pay attention because the insiders are selling into this move and a lot of retail traders are holding the bag. And I'm just encouraging you to pay attention to these things and make correct decisions. If the insiders are selling and they would like you to hold the bag, and you know retail traders lose 90% of the time, maybe you should make a different decision than what you're doing right now. Maybe we shouldn't YOLO into NVIDIA at $1,000. Okay, I'm just pointing that out to be frank. I've gotten rid of all of my long plays. The only things I am holding as of right now, I've scaled into UVXY and I'm holding AMC. Okay, I'm holding AMC and I'm scaling into UVXY. And now I think I'm going to see that UVXY print, and maybe I'll even see AMC print as we go into the 24th and the 28th. Some key dates there. Now you're saying, okay, so the insiders are selling. What if this is just a flag and it backs off? Well, then why would volatility be scaling up, about to cross on the daily MACD with this 2-hour divergence? That was my last scale in. Okay, I've scaled into this move. Once we got to 1212, I started to scale in. Every time I saw a rejection, every time I saw a turn up, I started to scale into this position because I know when the 2-hour goes positive, that can flip around the daily scale. And what else do we have? We have the crash signal that's right above us. The 50 is very close to the 200. If that starts to scale up dramatically and the price can remain above that 50 and the 50 remain above the 200, we can see a stock market crash. So the main takeaway for this video is this chart right here. We've been talking about this chart. We talk about a lot of macro stuff over the weekend, and this is what you pay attention to for an actual crash. Everyone's saying, when's the crash going to happen? When's the crash going to happen? This is the signal that you see when a crash is going to happen, and that is the main takeaway of this video. So I would be very, very cautious holding anything long going into the rest of this week, going into next week, because we could see this prove to be some kind of stock market crash right now. Now, in the last 3 times this has led to a crash, the signal actually was a pullback, and then it comes up to test the high again, and then this right here has marked the last 3 crashes that we have experienced. And yes, you can go back in your charts right now and prove me right. You can go back in XLU, find the points where we've crashed the last 3 times, and you will see XLU make some kind of divergence or some kind of double top. And I highly, highly encourage you to pay attention to this as of right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Remember, that course is $100. I don't know how long I'm going to make that last. I just sporadically did it today during the live video. I appreciate that a few people have taken it, and I look forward to you guys emailing me or asking questions about the course live. Remember, when you take the course, it is not just take the course and I leave you in the dust. I want you to be learning throughout. If there is something that is confusing to you, please reach out to me. I will try to respond as quickly as possible. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great night, and I will see you tomorrow morning. Peace out.